Welcome, Fred, to the Institute for Advanced Astonishment. I just wanted to read a poem. You might find it familiar because you wrote it. Jesus said, I don't want to save you. I want to make you what I am. Crucify your concepts. Empty your heart. Stop clinging to the cross of opposites, past and future, heaven and hell, body and spirit, the damned and the saved, ignorance and enlightenment. If you really need redemption, get saved by wonder. Resurrection is the pollen where the rose began. You are already fragrant with compassion. Through your next breath, dissolve in the virgin womb of this sparkling moment and be born again. If you think that the kingdom is anywhere else but here, in the eye of a thirsty sparrow, the cry of a motherless, borderless child, you have already fallen into exile. Listen, plant a very small tree. Pick up someone else's trash. Honor the wound in your palm. Here's the good news of my gospel, Fred's gospel. You are the food that God wants to eat, a crisp and spicy crust, tender inside. That just kills me, Fred.
I vaguely remember writing that.
Is that an older one? It's probably an older one.
No,
No?
no, but I didn't include it anywhere. Where did you find it?
I don't know.
Now I'm going to have to go
It
back
was
and
in
look.
my notes somewhere, and I would go over them, and there'd be a poem, and I just put Fred. That's Fred, to make sure I don't
Well,
think it's me.
thank you for resurrecting that.
Uh,
I'll look it up.
so what I love about your poetry, especially for this podcast, is, we're all about just helping other people, dropping breadcrumbs, or like Hafiz would say, dropping keys, or and pointing people home. And your poems are, as I said before, like little astonishment medicine. It goes in and explodes inside, and you take for an ex-atheist like me, an ex-skeptic, you take the religious, and you make it immediate and now, not and it's true and real, not something you have to believe in. It's you bring it right home and make it very clear and non-dual. So I think this medicine will be great for today.
Well, what you just said was just such a beautiful definition. I could never put in those words of like what I want to do with poetry. I don't even consider it poetry. It's just these little like murmuring spikes that I throw at people.
Ah,
And yeah, what you described, if I could just share those moments of awakening, because if you have one of those moments of wonder, of
yes,
astonishment, like maybe it lasts for a minute, a microsecond, but
right.
in that microsecond, an impression is there in your mind that you will keep going back to again and again and again.
Yes.
And it's like having a 10-hour meditation. So it's the same effect. And so if people could just experience those moments of wonder a few times a day, I think the whole
Yes.
world would change.
It's like a
You
little
know, you
hit,
don't have
like a little hit of wonder, a quick little shot.
to.
And when you said spike, all I could see was you on the side of the road and the seeker is driving by and sad, and you throw that thing that the police put out, that line of spikes, and the bad guy's driving by, and boom, it blows the tire. And that's what this does. It explodes inside. And if we could put a crowbar in it, and if
Well,
they
that's
read
better than a.
enough of them, and they learn to do Lexio Divina, like sit with it and actually digest it and chew on it and go back to it, it'll help. It works. It's true.
Well, I like that image better than a little naked Greek boy with a bow and arrow. So,
Yeah, my teacher always told me we have to replace these old images, like, to something that we know. And that's what your poetry does. It
Stupid.
takes the crucifixion, like you just said, and stop, clear out the concepts and stop uh, being, because it could sound so esoteric when it's written in the Bible or in a scripture. It could sound
Yeah.
impenetrable, and you sit there and read it over and over, and you think, I have to believe in this, but your poetry makes it right immediately what you are right now. And I know that first poem you're going to read. I think I just set the stage for it. The Yogi. I think that's it. I'm not sure. The Tavern.
Yeah, the
That.
Tavern of Awakening. Yeah,
Oh,
the
maybe I'm
Tavern
thinking
of
of the
Awakening.
Yogi, the one with the body. Which poem is that? When you're a yogi
Oh,
in the crib.
you want me to start with that? The hymn to
No,
the
either
body?
one. Whichever one you want.
Okay.
They're both
Okay.
great.
Well, all right. So, yeah, just what you were talking about is very much the function of this poem. And because some of my poems are a little irreverent towards, our noble New Age traditions, but it's not because I'm a cynic. It's because I want to kind of blow away the conceptual
Yes.
luggage and armor that we carry. So this poem was selected by the German mindfulness teacher, Otto Rake, who's in Austria, and he does everything in German. And lo and behold, he's been using my poems in his mindfulness meditation courses and retreat centers and stuff. And he asked me if he could do a book of my poems in German.
It's great.
And I said, well, let me think about it. No, I said, of course, that would be incredible. So he's taken poems, and just as you do, poems I kind of forgot about and
Yes.
stuff. And he's got this whole book of them with, like, it's German on one page and English on the other. It's called The Tavern of Awakening. And so this is the title poem that he selected. I mean, he did it all and translated it. And the official release date is tomorrow.
Perfect.
Yeah. And you didn't even know that when
I
we
had
set
no
this up.
idea. The
Okay,
Tavern
so
of Awakening.
The Tavern of Awakening. I got bored with spiritual practices. Inhale, counting 4, hold 2, exhale 6. I did this in first grade arithmetic. Why not just dive into 0? I can't even lie in corpse asana. Maybe there's a coyote posture or a wounded raven pose. That bronze yogini in her bikini's been sitting in full lotus over an hour. She's still smiling. Did she get a better mantra? On your in break, think breathing in. On your out breath, breathing out. But why not think my grandmother rides her red tricycle through golden atoms of intergalactic chicken broth? So I took my complaints to the master, who just laughed and said, when did you actually see me doing any of that crap? Then he threw his arm over my shoulder and led me to the Tavern of Awakening, where everyone gets instantly drunk by practicing absolutely nothing. Nobody knows who's giving the party or why. Lovers just show up with big empty cups and dance in a mambo line all night, swigging from a jug of stars whose light won't arrive for 1,000 years. And just before dawn, he whispers in my ear, don't call me master anymore. Call me friend. Then he gives me all the advice I'll ever need for free. Honor your body. It's a garden of ancient weddings. Christ kisses Magdalene here, where your rib is missing. Be a flute at Krishna's lips. He'll breathe music through you. And when you bow, bow to your heart. Its pulse is the hum inside all names of God. Now take off your shoes, walk softly over the earth, and pulverize the whirling.
Amazing. And you forgot about that one? That's
Oh
amazing.
no, I knew about that one, and that's it's their versions of it. They're different versions of it.
Right. So beautiful.
So, but I like that one.
I love it.
Actually, it's actually quite poignant at the end when you think, I've tried everything, and my mind is
Yes.
still petty and small,
Yes.
and you just give up, and you feel the master's love, whatever that love is, whoever it is to you, but there's something very personal there, touching you and saying, "Don't call me master, call
Yes.
me friend." And
Beautiful.
that's actually a quote, from Jesus. Jesus said that,
Ah,
a
and
version of what he said.
The Sufis always say friend with a capital F, right? Like the friend.
So, bearded one, how are you?
I'm great. I'm so happy that you're here. And I wanted to say this. The last two we did, we did one with RJ and the philosopher and the monk. Then we did another with the Institute for
Yeah.
Advanced Astonishment. And I always stopped you. And tonight I don't do that. I said I will not. I always would stop you and say, Fred, but what does that mean? Even though I know what it means, I would always want to clarify. But today, it's Fred LaMotte unleashed and unchained. No explaining, no stopping. Just letting it rip. Right? We don't need to explain these, do we?
Well, if you have a sincere desire, if I make a reference to something that you think should be explained because it's too esoteric, please call me on that and say, "Hey, wait, what does that mean?" Yeah.
No, I don't want to even do that. Let them
All
look it
right.
up. Let them look up Magdalene. Let them look up whatever, you
Oh
know.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah, let them
Magdalene.
find it. They have to do some work.
She's of revolutionary importance, and she's making as her followers were systematically persecuted all through Europe and southern France, but they kept cropping back up again and finding something in her. And if you ever want to read an amazing book, read not the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, but
I
the
have.
other book that she may have brought with her when she went to France. It's called The Gospel of the Beloved Companion, and
Oh,
it's amazing. It's got this one section where she guides you through these seven worlds and releases you. And it's very obvious to me anyway that she's not up there in heaven. She's guiding you through your own body, through the
yes.
centers of your own body. And
Would
it's
that
just an amazing piece of mystical work. The very few people know about it.
would that be the
Anyway,
same as Teresa's the many rooms in the mansion? Same sort
Seven
of idea?
Mansions. I
Yeah.
don't know. I've never had that feeling about that book so much as I did with this
Ah,
intense chapter in the Gospel of the Beloved Companion, because it's written, just a few paragraphs long. It's like a guided meditation.
right. Beautiful. I watched a good friend here pointed me to the newest movie on Mary Magdalene. I don't know if you have seen it. It's 2018. The whole thing's on YouTube. You could
Oh,
watch it, and it's amazing.
really?
And again, like your poetry, it makes it more. It could be the writing or whatever, but they make it more immediate. It's not
And
something.
it's a movie or a
Yeah, it's a movie.
documentary? Ah,
No, a movie where they. It's a movie.
cool.
Yeah,
Didn't
and
even
it
know
doesn't
about it.
seem so supernatural, and it's a little more, you know, I don't want to say science-based, but immediate. Like I loved Scorsese's Last Temptation of
Yeah,
Christ. It seemed to make it immediate, like Jesus on the cross, hallucinating of having a family and being just a man, and then he awakens again.
amazing. Yeah,
Really good.
yeah. I love Scorsese. You never know what he's going to do
You know what he's working
next.
on
He did
now?
a lot.
He's working on the new Christ movie, the last one, I guess he'll make, and he just made a big movie about silence, and I think this is going to be, the one
Cool,
doesn't make it
amazing
something
guy.
outside of us.
Beautiful. Wow.
So, so I have a question. If someone's watching, again, I'm not stopping you, but if I was a seeker and I'm watching, and you're saying in that beautiful poem, don't don't worry about practice so much. Just show up and be here. You don't have to. It's that seeking energy that keeps you seeking, right? It's a weird thing where you stop, you say, okay, I'm desiring. The teacher says, don't desire. Okay, now I'm desiring not to desire, and you're caught in this weird loop. So your poem
Yeah.
there frees you. So to someone who I always say to meditate to people, you would say, maybe if they are having trouble, and a lot of people can't sit and do it the way I'm asking them. That's why I asked them to take the medicine and it'll help. You're saying maybe just let go of even the meditation.
You're asking a perfect question. Look, I've been meditating for 53 years, twice a day, and I still do it.
Right.
And the more I undo it, the better it is. So I'm not saying don't meditate. I'm saying stop calling it meditation.
Ah, that's
Stop
good.
counting. Stop counting. Stop pretending that you know what's going on. Stop trying to repeat some high experience that you had. That's the worst.
I did.
That's
I
like,
know I did that.
I've had this experience. Now I'm going to get back there.
You
You've already
chase it.
made an idol. You've made an idol of your own experience. So to me, it's not that you don't do the practice that you were given, but you continue to rediscover the innocence of it, the non-doing of it.
So beautiful.
And if you give yourself a break, if you can't sit for a half an hour, sit for 10 minutes and say, for 10 minutes, I'm just going to do nothing, be nothing, and know nothing. And I
Perfect.
don't have to stay here a half an hour. And you may have a moment out of that 10 minutes, which is worth eternity,
Yes.
which completely is like a drop of frog dew from the back of a frog in the Amazonian rainforest dropping on your head, and revealing eternity to you. And that moment made the whole meditation worthwhile. So there's another thing we shouldn't count is time, the very concept of time. The idea that you can get something more out of 8 hours sitting zazen than you can out of 8 seconds sitting in wonder. That's
Right.
a trap. Yeah. So one of the best instructions I ever heard was from a woman who said, talking about this, and she said, um, just a moment of that freedom, uh, repeated often, several times a day.
Oh, it's
Several
perfect.
times a day, just to dive into those moments, and you start to notice that grace, that the world, whoever, whatever's guiding us, if you want those moments, they'll set you up with it. You may be on a lunch break,
Yes.
outside your high rise office, and there's
Right.
a garden there, and there's a rose, and there's a bee in the rose, and just for a moment, that tells you everything. you do get these moments handed to you, but we don't notice them.
Yes.
Because in our education, we don't teach our kids to notice them. You know, when's the last time someone said to a kid, you know, when you were over there by yourself, sitting under that bush, you took time out from the playground and you were sitting there. I think you had a moment of wonder, and I
Yes.
think you did really good. That was a really good thing to do. Do you remember those moments when you were a kid, but nobody acknowledged them,
I
and
do.
you had to shut up about?
I was in Brooklyn, and the stoop, like the outside, it was all brick and cement, and but I was 5 or 4, and I remember laying on my stomach like this and just watching the ants. That was my Amazon. Like the ants would be walking, and I'd watch the little ants work all day long, back and forth, and that was magic. And then I became a magician like 3 years later. So yeah, just seeing ants on cement, that gave me a feel of an arboretum or a forest or something. Is there a delay, Fred? I don't know.
I mean, you're breaking up a little bit. It's
Oh,
like
sorry.
your video is stopping, and
Oh,
yeah. But I hear you.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's Guatemala.
Well, oh, is that where you are? I thought it was Ecuador. It's Guatemala.
Guatemala. I almost went to
Ah,
Ecuador, to
well, that
Vilcabamba.
explains it. Like I was telling you, I'm up here in the
Yeah.
what?
What were you telling
Well,
me?
like I said in the beginning, I'm up here. I'm up here in the first world, and you're down there in the third world.
Wait.
And up here, we really got it together. Our politicians, we're all like totally together up here in the first world. You people down there in the third world, I don't know. You're breaking up. You're breaking up. I'm telling you. I knew some folks from Indonesia who came here and they wanted to see Seattle, and they
Yeah.
were shocked. They were shocked. They said, we never thought our cities aren't like this. I mean, God, there was just poverty all over the streets and tent cities everywhere, and people were like crazy. And yeah, the U.S. has some learning to do, especially from the first peoples of the world.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
community here in San Marcos, Guatemala, people get off the boat on Lake Atalan, which Huxley visited, I think, in 1933. And this is where the Little Prince was conceived of, but written in Northport, New York, but conceived of here, and with the volcanoes. And um, they get off the boat, and everyone is either a seeker, or they either teach yoga or they want to learn yoga. They give the medicine or they want to sit with the medicine. And it's such a beautiful community. And then you have the Mayan culture that holds the whole thing, together. And they're, I guess, more Christian. And it's just this beautiful mix of people, and everyone. If I say life is a dream, they're like, duh, of course. In New York, they put me in a straitjacket, but here, everyone is life is a dream, and I'm here to wake up. And um, so many people are the shamans, the real shamans are hidden in the jungles here. You don't see them in the cafe, but they're here, and so just amazing. The greatest conversations and pointing people home. It's just a beautiful place.
Wow. That's good introduction to that piece that I just wrote for International Day of Yoga called Hymn to
Yes,
Your Body.
yes, my
So
favorite.
here we go again. I hope I don't insult anybody. But speaking of dreams, I wanted to say I'll let you be in my dream if I can be in yours. You know
Sure.
who said that?
Who said
That was
that?
Bob Dylan.
Ah,
I'll
I
let you
just
be in.
left the table where we were talking Bob Dylan for out. We were talking about my favorite song, Ma, it's all right. I'm only bleeding. I love that. That kills me. Kills me. Dylan.
All right. Well, this is a hymn to your body, written for the International Day of Yoga, June 21st.
Yeah.
You don't have to go to the Amazonian rainforest or take hallucinogenic jungle herbs to be a shaman. Don't need a journey to Tibet in order to practice the secrets of Tantra. Don't need to tie your legs into a pretzel for the deepest, perfect yoga. You were a yogi in the crib at 6 months old, stretching out, curling up, rolling over, bouncing. You performed a complete sequence of asanas, fingers and thumbs dancing with esoteric mudras of Buddhic blessing. You were a shaman in the playpen, your throat a bone rattle, your belly a drum, your joyful gurgling the incantation that invoked the animal guides, a dog, a cat, a parakeet. The sounds your body made were tantric bija mantras, full of Shakti, Ya, Hum, Fat, Kri, Bam. Even if you had no idea what you were saying, you practiced the art of creation through the word. Even as a fetus tumbling through the womb, you circled the vast zodiac Dharma wheel and embodied the constellations, fish, bull, lion, scorpion. Were you not purified in the sweat lodge of birth? What better baptism than microbiome? Surely, a newborn, you carried every talisman required for the shamanic journey. Your skin, the robe of the dear priest. At the center of your ancient brain, a holy sepulcher with a hidden medicine bundle, the amygdala. In the deep behind your cortex, a visionary jewel, your pineal gland, spurting streams of sapphire wisdom toward your forehead. On your fontanelle, a diamond cup, blending crystal light into 7 colors of the rainbow, pouring distant stars down your backbone. Your diaphragm a lyre, strung with gut, resonant with Pythagorean intervals of thunder and silence. Did the in the outer flesh? Of course not. You were an edgeless field of organic radiance. Your neurons rooted in loam through the soles of your feet, twining with mycelia. Your vagus, a tree of life, a trellis of bone at the center of a dusty vineyard. How succulent those heavenly spheres, entangled in your branches, lighting up your cortex, each twig a wick, each leaf a flame, returning planetary fire to the sun. Did your senses drink the world in or flow outward to use it like an incantation? But then, alas, the priests and professors gave you an education. They taught you to superimpose a mind full of concepts over the boundless mystery of mother matter. You learned to analyze and divide, to distinguish Eve from the serpent. They are one and the same dangerous wisdom. The sensuous from the spiritual. They are one and the same divine energy. The heavenly from the profane. They are one and the same delight. Now is the time to lay aside what they taught you and remember your unfallen body of original astonishment. The root meaning of shaman is one who sees in the dark. Is this age of deepest darkness not the best hour to awaken and realize your power? Witness the full moon of your own divine beauty rising in the sacred night between your eyebrows. Stroll with the goddess in the cool of the evening. Stroll with the goddess in the cool of the evening, through the terrible holy flowers of your sacrum, your belly, your heart, your throat, your forehead, your crown. Gaze into the light of glory that glows in the heart of unknowing. Your body is Eden, your birthright is innocence. It was never lost. Now be breathed.
Beautiful. So good.
My demonic dogs, right on cue.
Right on, goddess. I can't.
I'm going to let him out.
Sure. So can I ask you, what worked for you to get you to let this flower, and what didn't work? What were the trap? I mean, you write about a lot of get to the non-conceptual space. Don't let it's like in the Bible it says like don't something about graven images. Don't worship a idol or graven I noticed that things harden, or for me, it would be I'd get it, and then a week later, or like a clear. This is the only way I could describe it. A clear film would go over everything, and it seemed like I knew, but it was becoming knowledge again, like words and concepts, but it was clear like oil, and I couldn't see. It took a while for that to go. So what are the traps? How does one get to non-conceptual space?
Well, there's one simple, to me, one word answer that's taken me in my life to figure out is the word grace.
Yes.
Grace. And the grace, as my original teacher said, you don't take grace, or rather, grace is not given to you.
Right.
You take it when you're ready to open up. It's like your fist. It's like grace is all around you. Grace is the very nature of being.
But can you prime grace? Can you know that old quote? I think it's Suzuki, but the other Suzuki, not DT, the other one, Shunryu Suzuki, who said meditation. You know him. Meditation. Yeah. What is it? These things could be accidents, but meditation makes you accident prone. Something like that. So can you prime? I always say it's like if someone wanted to see a deer and they lived by you, and the deer come in the yard, and they said, okay, I want to see a deer, your neighbor, and they go out with like a boom box and they play music loud and they sit there with their drink and they're loud, and the deer might not come, but if you set the stage and you're silent and maybe you sip your drink quietly and play a light chant and light a candle, don't do anything to distract the deer, then the deer or the grace will show. It's like a date. You have to set the tone. Yeah, it's a date with the beloved. Right. So pull the shades down, maybe set the tone, light a candle.
And for me, now this is where all of a sudden I seem like I'm contradicting myself, because like I told you before, I've been practicing very regularly for 54 years. And I was given the practice of meditation by a teacher, and I studied with him. And then I also studied with his disciple, who has become a teacher, these beautiful practices of breath practices that go with the meditation, or kind of like a preparation for meditation. And I did a lot of yoga, although the Tai Chi is much better for me now, because I find yoga kind of like rigid, whereas Tai Chi is like constant micro movements.
Right.
But these practices are very ancient and very real and come from the yoga tradition, not esoteric, difficult, graceful, like drops of grace passed down in a beautiful cup. But what I found got in the way, the other half of your question, was making a quote unquote movement out of it and
Right.
having to join the movement. And once you get into that sort of ashram culture,
Hmm.
oh man,
They
talk
kill
about
them.
egos, talk about like hierarchies, talk about like mind games, and make and this tendency to make a dogma out of
Yeah.
everything the guru says, and authority becomes very important. Oh, he's been with the movement for 15
Right.
years. Oh,
Lineage. Lineage is
lineage,
very
yes.
important.
It has a
Flower
function. I
picture.
mean, it has a function to preserve knowledge, but when it becomes
Yeah.
an ego trip, um, and another thing that Suzuki once said was that the beginner's mind is often, the best mind. The beginner's mind
Yes.
is often has the experience you want much more than the person who's been in the movement for 20 years. So do the practice innocently that you're given and respect the tradition as a vehicle, like you say, as a vehicle for just opening. Like you can do something to release the tension in your hand with the
Yes.
grace that fills your hand. I mean, right now, what am I doing? I'm holding billions of stars in the palm of my hand. And
Yeah.
and that's just happening. But at least what I did, I just opened my hand. But then the grace filled it. So it's a delicate dance between having respect for tradition and doing the practice that you're given, but doing it by constantly rediscovering the innocence and not making a dogma out of what you're doing,
And a
not
dogma
naming
is
it.
almost like what I was saying about that film. It's there,
Yeah,
but then it seems to harden, and it's almost like we have like 40 volcanoes here. So I look at a volcano every day, and a volcano, like the blast is like the what you write about. The blast is the astonishment, the wonder, the experience of your true nature. It's that blast, but then it rolls down and it becomes uh, down the thousands of feet, and it becomes hard, and that's Christianity and Judaism, but you can still crack it, and it's hot inside, but you have to don't let it get
wow,
hard.
yeah,
Don't let it, yeah,
yeah,
engraven.
that's beautiful. Yeah, and well, I realized that the graven images, the really dangerous graven images, are the graven images of thought. They're not the
Yes,
ones made out of gold and silver, but the ones made out of the mind. Those are the ones that become the doctrines, and people
yes,
fight and kill over them. And one of the things that first drew me to beloved, now departed Thich Nhat Hanh
yes.
was that I don't know if it was his teaching or that it's actually one of the principles of Buddhism, but he said it was one of the principles of Buddhism to let go of doctrines. And
Yes.
I had never heard that in any other tradition, that one of the practices is that you have these doctrines that help you and teach you, but at some point you let go of the doctrine. I thought that was just so,
Yeah.
so profound, so simple, and yet so very profound to be able to ha- to take the beautiful nectar out of the flower, but like the bee, but don't hold on to the flower. Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that sort of when you cross with the raft, don't carry the raft on your back, a little bit of what that's saying, right? I used to carry the raft Carry it and put it down. Look at my raft. Look at this raft. But you have to let go of the raft eventually. But
Yeah.
there's something to, what do you say about knowing enough to not slip also? There's something to knowing the architecture of a dream and how things work so that when you do slip, you have enough knowledge to go, aha, and you do it with joy rather than, sadness, like a slap in the head, and you go, ah, and you don't take it personally. You see, oh, that was me doing that. Oh, I let it harden again. Oh, I was making a dogma out of that. You need to know. I mean, you don't need to know, but it helps sometimes to fall back on getting a gist of what's going on here.
Yeah, well, I think you just answered your own question. You you are your own teacher, and it's important to be compassionate toward yourself.
Yes.
When you were saying that, I was thinking of Goethe has this amazing line. I'd love to know it in German, where he says, "That which liberates the spirit without also providing a discipline is
Oh,
a disaster."
yes.
It's
So
a
we could
disaster.
say we could have a discipline, and yeah, it's okay because there's a lot of this Neo Advaita stuff going on that they're like fuck the discipline. And they
Exactly.
and your poetry, they could grab it and try to use it to back themselves up, even though
Oh
you're
yeah.
meditating for 53 years or 54 years. So it's this tightrope that you need to, maybe that's the razor's edge. I don't know. Is that what they're talking about in the
I think
Upanishad? It's a tricky thing. It's
exact.
very tricky.
I think that's the razor's edge.
Yeah.
Um, Definitely, it's doing without doing, wu wei, and it's being true to the lineage without making a lineage out of it.
Right.
Like you're rediscovering it every day. Like I like to tell people at their birthday, congratulations, but you're not one moment old.
Oh, I
You're
love
not
love
one
that.
moment old. Each moment, literally, you rediscover how to live. And we get so stuck in our traditions. And that really inspires me to want to share this one more poem if I
Yes.
can. And you'll recognize the riff that this is based on without me telling you the quote. But because I too feel great pain when I look at what's going on in the world today and how stuck people are in these very things,
Yes.
and literally killing people over their beliefs. So this is called Here. Out beyond right thinking and wrong thinking, there's a field. Will you meet me there? Out beyond Israel and Palestine, there's a field. Will you meet me there? Out beyond Islam and Christianity, atheism and religion, oneness and two-ness, there's a field. Will you meet me there? Beyond Republican and Democrat, beyond whiteness and blackness, beyond the binary and non-binary, there's a field where wine forgets it was ever a grape, a meadow full of bees with 10,000 fragrances that all become honey. I asked Rumi, which path leads there? He said, follow any sweetness through the gate that is always open. I asked, where is that gate? He pointed, and his finger ever so gently pressed the hollow in my sternum where the heart breathes.
Wow. Love that. Yeah. So do you think this is a little speculation, but do you think the world ever hits a threshold with the connection now with your poems hitting the internet and people doing yoga and people taking the medicines and the things becoming more legal and more awareness to astonishment? Does the earth, do the people ever, that pain that you feel for the people, and we have the bodhisattva heart to try to help people, does that ever hit a threshold of 30-40% where it starts to roll and the whole thing gets better and we actually see it get better? Or is the earth a laboratory of always a movement of good and bad, and it's always going to be that way? And you wake up from it, and you, like Gandhi would say, are the change through perception, and you know everything's well, and then you jump in. You don't stay on the mountaintop, but you jump in and you try. You throw your poetry, you throw the Tavern of Awakening into the universe, and you hope that spreads, and we keep sharing. Is it an eternal laboratory of forgetting and then remembering and then awakening, or do we actually see it happen? Do we see everyone's hands go up and we see it? Your turn. Simple question.
Yes.
Yeah. Good answer.
I think that you have described the process perfectly. I wish I had your words, transcribed. What you just said, you at first you think you can make peace and you can have a peace movement, and that peace can be somewhere in the future if we would just solve all the injustices in the world, but we have to do that first. Good luck. Then you realize eventually you can't make peace.
Yeah.
You will never get there because peace only exists in the present moment. It's like the sign they're always carrying around the streets, peace now, which is very interesting because it's really true. But they mean it as a demand. I want you to do something to create this peace. But peace is always only found, and this is why we keep directing people to meditation, real meditation, to come back to the heart. And then you can radiate peace. You are peace. That's the only answer. You're not going to find it. You're not going to see it happen. You can be that peace.
Yes.
And, Christ on the cross, radiating that peace. Well, guess what? He's still getting crucified. There's not peace on earth, and yet he's radiating this incredible love. So, as we descend into Kali Yuga, we shouldn't look for things to get a lot better. Everybody's thinking they're on the verge of the age of enlightenment. That's like one of the great myths. And I think I said in this piece that I just read, I just have to keep repeating this line, that in this age of deepest darkness, is this not the best hour to awaken?
Right.
Because the very meaning, the root meaning of the word shaman is one who sees in the dark. So where are you going to do that except in the dark?
Right.
It has to be dark for the light to awaken. Light has no other field. And yet when the light is there, the darkness is gone. So we live in this very far out world where most of us are walking around in the darkness saying, when are we going to get there? And there's some people who are literally in the light.
Yes.
And they're radiating that light. And I think that's the way it's ever going to be. And the people who are in the darkness some of them are just going to be so jealous or frustrated with the people in the light that they will end up crucifying them.
Right.
Or laughing at them. As Lao Tzu said, if it were not laughed at, it would not be the Tao.
Oh, I love that. It's like Plato's cave where they're trying to fix the shadows and not turn to the light and see the mechanism of the whole thing. You have to make the turn like the prodigal son. You have to turn, you have to make a turn, and the turn is within, and then the perception changes, and then the compassion comes, and you try to beam that and break up the dream and lighten up the dream,
Mm.
or maybe you don't. Maybe you just stay in a cave. Like Yogananda said, I could have stayed in the cave, but he came to America. You know, we have this Thich Nhat Hanh wrote what 50, 100 books trying to spread that light.
Mm. And Buddha was tempted to stay under the Bodhi tree,
Yeah,
and all the angels and demigods came to him, and they said, "You got to come out and teach." And Buddha said, "Why? Nobody's going to understand this."
right.
There's some people who are already there, and it's obvious, and they get it, and the other people don't, and they're just going to turn it all into a religion and a dogma. And then finally, one of the demigods came and said, "Ah, but Lord, there's this thin line between them. There are these few people who are ready. They're ripe. They're
Yes.
like ripe fruit, ready to fall. And for their sake, for their sake,
Yes.
all they have to hear is for you to say these words into fewer and clarify it, and the fruit will drop from the tree. You won't enlighten the masses, but there are always going to be these few who are ready, and you're doing just such a world of good just for them. And so Buddha
Love
said, "Okay, I
it.
can't resist that."
You twisted my arm. Yeah, the way I put it, in my own simple way, is it's like you're cooking for the poor in your own house. You're cooking, and you have extra food. All of a sudden, you're cooking out of your garden. You're cooking, and you bring it. There's people on the lawn and on your porch that are starving, and they get it. They know where the food is, and they know you can bring it, but you trample over them to go 3 blocks down and bang on a guy's door that's going to punch you in the face because he doesn't want you at his door. He doesn't care about it, or she doesn't. And you're trampling over the people that are actually at your door, and they know, you know, so don't ignore or going all the way down to Everest, and you're yelling on a megaphone, hurting the ears of the ones that are 2 feet from the summit, and they just need a pull, and you're screaming to the base camp all the way down, and you're getting upset and agitated that all those thousands of feet down, they're not listening and they can't hear you, but there's ones that are right there pulling at your shirt, and you can at least pull them up.
That's really important. Um, Something that's taken me my whole life to finally get, because people are always saying, "Oh, we have to solve this problem in the world, we have to solve that problem, and we have to, save Tibet and save Central Africa, and say there's always like these unbelievably hard things going on, and it's up to us to like. I always had, how am I supposed to do that? And then I realized gradually, just as you said, your work, you continually ask, where is my work? If you want to make it devotional, oh Lord, where is my work? Oh self, where is my work? It's always right in front of you.
Yes.
It's always where your path is. And there's the injustice that you must deal with. And it may seem small, but in the way you deal with it, that's what you're given at that moment. And you may say something to someone or have an influence on someone. You may meet a peace worker or a politician, or it could be you may meet a very angry member of the opposite party. You never know.
Right.
But your influence in that moment could have ripple effects that influence so many people. So you never need to ask, where should I focus? You should always focus where you are, because
Yes.
right there's need for that peace.
What did Meistackart, another German, say? You could probably quote it. I'm going to miss one of them, but he said there's three things. The work, who do you wait? The time is now. The one to help is the one sitting across from you, and the work is love. Agape love, and that's exact. And he also said, to polish off a point right before you did the last poem, what you were saying, how you have to, because this thing hardens overnight and it keeps hardening. You have to keep it fresh and keep it fresh. And he said, as you know, you have to be a beginner every day. You have to be a beginner every morning, something like that. We're all, Merton said the same thing. We're all beginners. And now I get it. That's what I think that means. Because like you said, and you said it better than anyone I've ever heard, you said that once it becomes doctrine, then you get out the guns and you start to protect it, and and you start to fight for it once it becomes dogma or doctrine.
Mm-hmm.
So beginner.
Yeah. Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. That was the name of Suzuki's talks. They were the most beautiful book. I've got to go back and reread that. I met Shunryu Suzuki back in 1970 at a Holy Man Jamboree in Boulder, Colorado, when I was leaving the East Coast and heading out to Never Never Land, and never to come home, I thought. And these were the ripe days of yogis everywhere, and they had this Holy Man Jamboree in Boulder, Colorado, and everyone was naked and people were like drinking wine, and it was like the last thing that a yogi would ever. But there were all these very famous yogis there, and Shunryu Suzuki came and he sat there and he looked around and he said, God, he was beautiful. And he said very humbly, he wasn't trying to be the great teacher. He just said, somebody had asked him about drugs. And he said, the thing is, you don't need a drug when a glass of water can be magic. And he had a glass of water and he drank this, took a taste of water. And all of us hippies, were like, oh,
yeah.
He had such an influence. I mean, he said everything in that, the clarity, the freshness, the moment, a glass of water rather than all these like things that you have to have in your head. And wow, I never forgot that. I'm sure he influenced like hundreds and hundreds of people. Wow, you don't need all that, whatever all that is for you, when a glass of water can be magic. And for some of us, that was between that and maybe being with Ram Dass saying, be here now. Those were some of the first moments when we really awakened to the present moment rather than the higher planes.
Right.
Before that, it was all about getting to those higher planes. And we've actually come a long way,
Yes.
in spirituality by coming back to the present moment. That took us a long time. We were looking for higher esoteric planes, for so long. And so it's a very meaningful thing that we have come back to the present moment. Unfortunately, you can even make a dogma out of that too.
Yes.
So
Do you think that Ram Dass talks about going way up and then coming down and going way up and you want a steady, and so he had to do that for a while, and you hit this beautiful moment, but then it's just an experience, and then you crash. And so what's your advice on, do you have to go through that first and then get to this? Like you said, we come a long way, or can you go straight home, you know, straight home?
Um, that's I think each person has to do it in their own way. And I think the distinctly Western way is to make a huge drama out of it. Um, that's why the book Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse, I
Love
love it. I love it. But it
German.
is so un-Buddhist. It is so existentialist German, the individual angst-ridden and going on his trip to the Kamala or the woman, and the
Yes.
prostitute, and then coming back and being an ascetic and going to the extremes. I don't think you have to do that, but I think that's a very sort of Western, and perhaps it's a luxury for the Western adolescent in
Right.
us. We had that luxury. There was a very brief time from the end of World War II until just about now, when, very brief time, when Western children, us spoiled brats, we thought this is it, and we actually had the luxury of going to all these extremes, that's a luxury.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe you don't,
Working in a field.
there's lots of parts of the world where you don't have the luxury, or perhaps the extremes are immediate. They're all, I mean, you go to India and there's dead bodies and there's people dying, and you don't put your elders in some home. Life and death and birth and death are all around you all the time. So I think during extreme times, maybe we're going to come into an age when it will be easier to see
Yeah.
just right where we are, because that's according to the scriptures of India, that's the nature of Kali Yuga. In Kali Yuga is the most auspicious time for liberation. People don't realize that. That is the teaching of the yogis, that in Kali Yuga, because the extremes are so immediate and the opposites are so available, like all around us all the time, it's so obvious that, this is not where it's at and that's not where it's at.
Right.
That the path of liberate, and it's you cry out, oh God, save me.
Yes.
I need that grace. All this stuff that I thought I could do by myself. No. So Kali Yuga itself is a time of grace, even though it's chaos in the world. And we might not have to have the luxury of going to all those extremes anymore, but that's okay, because we'll be on the path to the present moment.
Beautiful. Would you say that's the same as suffering is the greatest way to awaken from a dream? When you're suffering so much, you say this can't be real, and you awaken from it's grace disguised as suffering that squeezes you awake, because you can't do anything except, like you said, either cry out or snap out of it and actually pop. I don't know if that's the same.
Well, I think that's very often the way it is. It doesn't have to be, but I think it is. I think life knocks us on the head, and sometimes gently, sometimes hard, until we wake up.
Right.
Yeah.
So every podcast lately, I've been trying, and I'll just do it 1 minute to encapsulate what's going on, like a little bit of speculation, like what is this? What are we in right now? So I'll go first, and if you want to, you don't have to. You could do a poem, or you can just give me an answer, but I'm going to try. Ready? So right now,
Okay.
let's just say, before there was an earth, before there was any matter or anything, there was just pure imagination, and that pure imagination or endless love, it's just always there, and it wanted to almost, forgive my words, it wanted to almost look at itself or experience it itself. So it it gives rise to or maybe by accident, it fades into sleep. It has everything. It only loves itself, and then it forgets. And in the forgetting, blossoms a world, almost like the garden, where it gets lost, And it's so perfect that you have to come home to this. You have to you have to remember. It's not a learning, but a remembering. And you have to remember who you really were. You were the king, and now you're just dreaming that you're the beggar. And it's so fine tuned, and you can't fool yourself. You can't cheat. You think you're cheating and getting away. You can't, and you have to come to this, to the good, to the love, and then you wake up and you realize that you never that all is well. That's my best. 1 minute, something like that.
Wow.
And sometimes
I don't think,
medicine is like a waking pill instead of a sleeping pill, and it calms down, and heaven and hell are right here at the same time, and two people could be sitting next to each other, one in bliss and one is suffering. It's like a frequency, and you just have to calm down, like calming the water down, calming, a wave down. Just come to the stillness. All right, I'm shutting up.
well, I couldn't possibly.
Yes, you can.
No, I think what I'm going to do is just simply read a short poem, like
Yes.
as a final meditation, and that'll be my answer.
Okay.
Because I don't think I've ever read it, so it's just kind of
Oh,
fresh.
is it in the new book?
Um, I don't know. I don't,
It's an
called,
Easter it's
art,
a Easter egg in the new book. It's hidden in there.
maybe. I'll have to
Maybe.
go check. It's called Archer. You bent the bow, you bent the golden bow into an empty circle, pulled the arrow of darkness back to your eye. Now hold the target over your own breast and pierce the heart of the void. Your shaft has no quarry. It flies in all directions at once. Aim well, warrior, aimlessly, and you will bring down the Lord of blue skies. Draw your path into a sphere. Become the womb of your intent, where all is born without a purpose. You are the bow, the taut, hollow curve of possibility. Rest here between breaths, where the victory is already won and the arrow releases itself.
Amazing. Astonishing. Beautiful.
And I think in a way that's what you were saying. If you rest here between breaths, the victory is already won.
Yes.
And yet there goes the arrow. There goes the arrow of time. Yeah, there's stuff out there to do, to get, to go, and yet it's already released. We speak of paradoxes here, brother.
I have no more words after what you just read.
Well, I wish you peace, brother. I
You
hope
too.
at least a few people can partake of our joyful, crazy, wonderful, foolish meeting of great wisdom.
I think they will. And I'll see you again soon. Good luck with the book, The Tavern of Awakening, and I'll put a link in the description and to all your other books. And
Thank you.
I don't know if I'm
Thank
saying her
you.
name right. Shalan Harkin.
Oh,
Next
Shalan
week.
Harkin. Yeah,
Next week.
next
So
week.
that'll,
Yeah, you
yeah,
have to give me the time and place. Yeah, I'll call
sure.
in.
I will. Okay. Thank you,
All
Fred.
right.
Have an
Thanks.
amazing day and
Namaste.
namaste. And tomorrow the book I can get it tomorrow.
Yes, tomorrow the book. Tomorrow the book.
Tomorrow the book.
Okay.
Thank you.